Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got breaking news coming out from Ukraine to share with you. So, we're going to be talking about Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine. That's him right there in the photo for you, speaking at the European Council Summit today in Brussels on Thursday, October 17th, 2024. And he mentioned something absolutely huge today. He said that he spoke to Donald Trump in the recent past, and while speaking to Donald Trump, he let him know that Ukraine has two ways forward for protection for their nation is either joining NATO or they need to produce nuclear weapons to defend their nation. This is absolutely huge, okay? Would Ukraine produce nuclear weapons? Do they have the ability to produce them? We're going to talk about that later in this video, but he talked a lot about the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, which was Ukraine basically giving up their nuclear weapons back in 1994 for security assurances from Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom. And obviously, that memorandum that was not withheld, and the U.S. did not come to their aid and back them. United Kingdom did not come to their aid and back them in the way they were supposed to. They obviously gave them weapons to defend themselves. But Volodymyr Zelenskyy spoke a lot about that today, basically saying that that memorandum did not work, that the only real security assurance is either nuclear weapons or NATO for Ukraine. So I totally understand where he's coming from, and we could definitely see which direction Ukraine is headed and the direction that that Volodymyr Zelenskyy wants to take Ukraine. And something big that we heard yesterday in the victory plan for Ukraine that was announced at the parliament inside of Kiev is that obviously a big part of it is strengthening Ukraine. Okay, so if you think about this, strengthening Ukraine includes either having some sort of protection like either a NATO umbrella over Ukraine or nuclear weapons. So I totally see where he's going with this. And apparently, they could be on the verge of producing nuclear weapons if they're not able to get into Ukraine. So let's see what Ukraine does. Maybe they're going to set a timeline and say we need to get into NATO, some point soon. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to start producing nuclear weapons. So who knows what's going to happen here? But I want to show you this information. I've actually got two articles we're going to go over. One of them we're going to show you most of it. Then the other one we'll just kind of briefly go over. So let me start out here with Politico. Zelenskyy says we need NATO or nukes, and we want NATO. Ukraine suffered uniquely from its 1994 decision to denuclearize, the country's president said. Okay, here's a picture of Volodymyr Zelenskyy there. Ukraine's survival can only be ensured by joining NATO or giving Kiev nuclear weapons, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said. Zelenskyy recalled that his country agreed to give up the Soviet nuclear weapons stored on its soil in exchange for security assurances from Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom under the 1994 Budapest Memorandum. Which of these major nuclear powers suffered? All of them? No, Ukraine did, Zelenskyy said at the European Council Summit in Brussels on Thursday. So he's obviously right here. Which of these nuclear powers, including Russia, United States, United Kingdom, which of them suffered under this memorandum? Okay, obviously only Ukraine did because Ukraine was invaded by a nuclear power, which is Russia. Okay, and it says here who gave up nuclear weapons. All of them? No, Ukraine. Who is fighting today? Ukraine, he added. Either Ukraine will have nuclear weapons and that will be our protection, or we should have some sort of alliance. Apart from NATO, today we do not know any effective alliances. NATO countries are not at war. People are all alive in NATO countries, and thank God. This is why we choose NATO, not nuclear weapons. Okay, so I see what he's saying here when it comes to NATO. Obviously, if you have the NATO umbrella to protect Ukraine, then they most likely would not be invaded by Russia, as Russia has not invaded any NATO nations. So, obviously it makes sense. If they were to have their protection of NATO, then this would obviously greatly enhance their strength and protection for the country to not be attacked by Russia anymore. So also the Ukrainian leader presented his so-called victory plan to end the war with Russia to the Kiev parliament on Wednesday. It includes securing a NATO membership invitation plus continued arms shipments to force Russia to the negotiating table. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has expressed support for Ukraine's joining the military alliance, saying its path to the membership is irreversible but has been non-committal about when exactly that will be. We fulfill our obligations and just want others to fulfill theirs as well, but we have no real security guarantees as of now. A Ukrainian official close to the president told Politico after being granted anonymity to discuss the sensitive topic. Kiev must get approval of all 32 NATO members to join, but pro-Russian Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico has vowed to block Ukraine's accession as long as he is in office. Okay, so that is something that Robert Fico came out saying recently, the Prime Minister of Slovakia. He said that he would vow to block Ukraine joining into NATO. He even came out saying that if Ukraine were to join NATO, this would be World War III. So that was kind of the reasons why he was willing to block it. So would Ukraine be able to get into NATO? It doesn't look likely anytime soon, maybe in the future, but obviously there's this hurdle here if Robert Fico ends up wanting to block Ukraine from coming in. So, this is definitely going to be a hurdle for Ukraine, and it looks like they could be going the route of producing nuclear weapons if need be, if they cannot get the protection from NATO. So, obviously, major challenge for Ukraine right now. And then if you're wondering if Ukraine can even have the ability to produce nuclear weapons, let me show you this, because I was wondering the same thing. Kiev Post, they reported here, first nuke ready in weeks. Unnamed Ukrainian official reportedly says the comment of Ukraine having the ability or capability, to build a nuke within weeks came a few months ago in a closed meeting. German news outlet Bild alleged. Okay, this just coming out today, October 17, 2024. It says right here, an unnamed senior Ukrainian official specializing in weapons procurement reportedly said Ukraine could build a nuclear bomb within weeks during a closed meeting a few months prior. We have the material, we have the knowledge. If the order is given, we will only need a few weeks to have the first bomb, the official reportedly said at the time. According to the German news outlet Bild, the publication did not state when exactly the closed meeting took place. According to Bild, the same official warned at the time that the West should think less about Russia's red lines and more about our red lines, which would be Ukraine. The publication said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, his latest statement on Thursday regarding his country's solution to the war being either restoring its status as a nuclear state or becoming a NATO member, echoed the official's alleged claim a few months prior. Okay, so there you go. Does Ukraine have the ability to build nuclear bombs? According to this post, it's very possible Ukraine could have the ability or the capability to build a nuke within a few weeks. It says right here, okay, within weeks. Okay, so I would think less than a month. Okay, they could potentially have a nuclear weapon. So will Ukraine build nuclear weapons? It would not surprise me. I mean, after everything they've been going through with Russia attacking them, it definitely would not surprise me that they would go ahead and start building them. But this is a pretty crazy story, and we're going to have to see which direction Ukraine chooses to go. Obviously, if they choose to go the NATO route, that means they don't have to worry about building nuclear weapons. If they can get into NATO, then obviously they would have the protection of NATO. But the problem with that is time, okay? Does Ukraine have time on their side? Well, maybe not so much. Obviously, the Eastern Front is not doing too well, and the longer that this takes for them to get into NATO, that means more Ukrainian troops will continue to die in battle, more innocent people will lose their lives, and obviously Volodymyr Zelensky's come out a lot recently stating that he wants this war to be over by the end of 2025, okay? So no more than the next year. Hopefully this war will be over, and I'm definitely hoping it will come to a peaceful end. And if Ukraine is able to retrieve their land back, hopefully that would be a good case for them as well, and get the protection either from NATO, or if it has to come down to it, nuclear weapons. Maybe they shouldn't have ever given them up to begin with, but obviously back in 1994 they decided to do so. So this is yet again something that I always tell people on this channel, is that you always got to protect yourself. Whether it's your nation or your family, or just protecting yourself and your dog or whatever it might be. I think it's always important to have protection for yourself and never rely on anybody else to protect you, because this is a perfect example of that, of what happened to Ukraine. So let's see what Ukraine decides to do moving forward, but definitely a huge report coming out today. Let me know what you think down below. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.